Is Kevin Stefanski on the hot seat, or just the owner's a scapegoat for a colossal mistake? Cleveland's 2-5 skid into Week 8 against the 5-2 Patriots makes that question louder than the crowd noise at Gillette. The scoreboard is ugly. The season feels fragile. But the owner who gets the final say keeps reminding everyone there's context. ESPN.com, look at the scoreboard, then look at the ledger. Stefanski's Browns are 42-49 since he arrived, and brutally 5-19 since the start of 2024. Those aren't spin-friendly numbers. They explain the exhaustion in the fan base and the headline-hungry chatter about changes in Berea. They don't, by themselves, tell the whole story. StatMuse, let use. Here's that whole story in one blunt sentence. Jimmy Haslam publicly owned a mistake that still echoes through this roster, the Deshaun Watson trade. Haslam called it a big swing and miss, and he's used that phrase to explain why patience matters, even when the wins don't. That admission buys the front office and the coach a different kind of timeline than a win-now owner might give. It's also why Stefanski still gets some grace even as the losses pile up. Reuters now the practical stuff. Dillon Gabriel, the rookie taking snaps, will make his fourth career start in Foxborough. He's had flashes of competence and stretches of growing pains, and the Browns are trying to learn whether he's the answer or a placeholder while they sort out bigger questions. Meanwhile, Shedeur Sanders sits in the wings, social media's favorite what if, and a ticking storyline that will not go away if the team falters. The roster has options. The problem is clarity. ClevelandBrowns.com. So what is the real crisis? Coaching, roster construction, or the quarterback soap opera? It's all of the above, but with a twist. The Watson trade didn't just cost picks and money. It reshaped the timeline. Cleveland's timeline slipped from build around a veteran QB to rebuild in real time. That's a brutal pivot for any coach, and Stefanski's 2 AP Coach of the Year awards haven't insulated him from the same cold math every NFL coach faces. Wins and hiring committees are often framed by ownership patience, and Haslam just told us he feels accountable. Reuters game plan for Sunday. For Cleveland, be ugly and disciplined. When a team's offense ranks low in execution, you win back confidence with the controllables. Fewer turnovers, shorter third down series, and a running game that chews the clock and the Patriots' edges. If Gabriel protects the football, manages the pocket, and gets the ball to playmakers in simplified sets, Cleveland can make this competitive. If he doesn't, the what next conversation ramps up fast. And yes, that includes Shedeur Sanders' stares from the bench getting louder. ESPN.com, for New England, this is the classic trap game that feels anything but. The Patriots, 5-2 and peaking, are favored at home. They're not looking past Cleveland, and their coach knows a wounded team can bite back. Expect New England to attack with pace and force Cleveland into uncomfortable decisions. Force Gabriel to drive, force Stefanski to adjust in-game. If the Browns come in reactive instead of proactive, this will be a long afternoon in Foxborough. SI now, let's talk consequences. If Cleveland wins, ownership gets a short reprieve and Stefanski keeps breathing room. That one win won't erase the 5-19 stretch, but it shifts narrative momentum temporarily. If Cleveland loses, media cycles and fan pressure accelerate. The "we took a swing and missed" rationale will still be true, but it stops being a shield and starts looking like an excuse. That's the thin line between nuance and narrative in NFL ownership decisions. Reuters, here's the locker room angle nobody wants to ignore. Roster morale. Coaches who've been in Stefanski's shoes know that leadership is tested in 2 ways. During wins and, more importantly, when players start asking simple questions out loud. What's the plan? Who's next? Why this guy and not that guy? Haslam's public defense helps. It doesn't quiet the private doubts. The next 2 to 3 weeks could define whether this room rallies or fractures. Dogs by nature. If you want a single action to watch Sunday, watch third down offense and turnovers. Those 2 metrics will tell you whether Gabriel is settling in or spiraling, whether the line is buying Stefanski's calls, and whether this team is still capable of leaning on fundamentals. Simplify the offense when needed, win the short yardage battles, and the Browns can stay in the game. Fail at those things, and the clock will force the front office into hard decisions sooner than anyone planned. ClevelandBrowns.com. Final take. Cleveland's mess is not a one-person problem, but the coach wears the scoreboard. Haslam admitted the franchise made a huge mistake with Watson. That matters. It should temper immediate panic. But in the NFL, context is short-lived and results are unforgiving. Stefanski can lean on ownership's candor today. He needs to give the fans and the players a reason to trust his process tomorrow. Win or lose, that's the real test. And week 8 is where it either starts to look salvageable or starts to look like a longer, uglier rebuild. Roaders remember this. Fans remember the decision, players remember the energy, and owners remember the cost. Cleveland's ripple from one massive trade still runs through every play call. And until the Browns produce consistent results, the swing and miss will keep defining their calendar. The Browns show up in New England this weekend with a messy resume and a fragile vote of confidence. They're 2-5. Rookie Dillon Gabriel is set to make his 4th career start, and the franchise is still circling the fallout from the Deshaun Watson experiment. Newsweek, Jimmy Haslam didn't exactly pull the trigger on Stefanski. Instead, he took a breath and gave the coach a public lifeline. Kevin's done a really good job with us, Haslam told The Athletic's Diana Rossini, calling out the Watson trade as part of the reason the club is still digging out of a hole and praising Stefanski for rallying the team after a rough spell. That's not absolution. It's a very calculated buy of time. Yahoo Tethao. Why would Haslam press pause on the panic button? Because the Browns did something rare last week. They looked organized and dominant. Cleveland blew out the Miami Dolphins 31-6, a game where the run game and defense imposed their will, and the one-time question marks looked like a team that could actually play cleaner football. It was a reminder of what this roster can still be when the chaos subsides. Reuters, still, the ledger matters. Stefanski's record with the team sits under 500, 42-49, and Cleveland has gone 5-19 since the start of 2024. Ownership keeps referencing the Watson deal as a root cause, a big swing and a miss, and that language matters. It's basically Haslam saying aloud that the roster construction and cap decisions tied to that trade are strangling the team's flexibility. That's a long shadow to coach in. StatMuse. On the field, the quarterback carousel is the story no one can escape. The Browns opened the year with veterans and experiments, Joe Flacco, then a rapid pivot to rookie Dillon Gabriel, and now Shedeur Sanders is a hot-button subtext in the locker room. Gabriel's start in London, his first, showed composure and upside. He didn't turn the ball over, he moved the offense, and the staff believes in his preparation. That's earned him the job for now, but the for now part is huge. Every short-term win or ugly stretch becomes ammunition for whichever narrative you favor, patience or panic. Reuters now. So what's the real risk here? It's not a single loss. It's the slow erosion of belief among fans, players, and crucially within the front office that can turn a rebuild into a reset. Haslam's public backing buys Stefanski nights to sleep, but it also sets expectations, shows steady improvement, or the forgiveness is revoked. The Watson fallout isn't a get-out-of-jail-free card forever. If you squint, there's a rational path forward. Lean into what worked in Miami. Physical run game, clean defense, quarterback management that minimizes turnovers, and stop pretending a miracle quarterback fix will appear. Develop Gabriel, keep Shedeur's development transparent, and budget for the long term instead of flipping the roster every time the thermometer spikes. Bottom line, Haslam's quote is a pause, not a pardon. The Browns have a chance to build traction this week in New England, but the margin for error is paper thin. Win, and the momentum swallows a lot of noise. Lose, and that big swing and a miss line will start to sound like an epitaph.